The Persian Gulf is a place where history is written in oil and blood. But on the morning of July 3, 1988, the air was different. The heat was a physical weight, pressing down on the sailors of the USS Vincennes, a billion-dollar Aegis cruiser. It was the most sophisticated warship on the planet, a floating supercomputer designed to track and destroy hundreds of targets simultaneously. But technology is only as good as the eyes watching the screen. Inside the Combat Information Center there is no sunlight, only the blue and green glow of radar consoles. The crew is on edge. They are in Iranian waters, engaged in a skirmish with Iranian gunboats. The adrenaline is pumping. Suddenly a blip appears on the screen. Track 4131. It is identified as an unknown, assumed hostile. At that same moment, a few miles away at Bandar Abbas International Airport, Captain Mohsen Rezayan is performing his final checks. He is a veteran pilot, a father, and a man who has flown this route hundreds of times. Behind him, 290 people are settling into their seats. There are 66 children on board. Some are crying, some are looking out the window, excited for their trip to Dubai. Captain Rezayan keys his mic. Bandar Tower, Iran Air 655 ready for departure. He has no idea that he is flying directly into a death trap. He has no idea that on the Aegis cruiser below, men are screaming that he is a suicide pilot in an F-14 Tomcat. This is the story of the day the world's most advanced technology committed the world's most avoidable massacre. This is the truth behind Flight 655. To understand the tragedy, we must understand the environment. In 1988, the Iran-Iraq War was in its 8th year. It was a stalemate on land, but at sea, it was a firestorm. This was the tanker war. Iraq was attacking Iranian oil tankers to starve their economy, and Iran was retaliating by attacking any ship associated with Iraq's allies. The United States Navy entered the Gulf not to fight a war, but to protect the flow of global oil. However, the line between protection and participation was dangerously blurred. The U.S. Navy was on high alert. Just a year earlier, the USS Stark had been struck by missiles, killing 37 sailors. Paranoia was at an all-time high. The Navy issued new rules of engagement. If a target looks threatening, do not wait, shoot first. Enter Captain William C. Rogers III. He was known for his aggressive nature. Command of the USS Vincennes was given to him because of this tactical mindset. The Vincennes was equipped with the Aegis system, the pinnacle of Cold War tech. It was supposed to be infallible, but within the Navy, the Vincennes had a reputation. Other crews called it the robo-cruiser. They felt Rogers was always looking for a fight, always pushing the limits of his authority. On that fateful Sunday morning, Rogers had moved his ship into Iranian territorial waters without permission, pursuing small Iranian patrol boats. He was looking for action. He was looking for a target. And at 10:17 a.m. he found one. Let's reconstruct the timeline of the shootdown. This is where the investigation reveals the terrifying truth of human-machine error. 10:17 a.m. Flight 655 takes off from Bandar Abbas. It is 27 minutes behind schedule. This delay is crucial. Had it been on time, it might have crossed the strait before the Vincennes even entered the area. 10:20 a.m. The Aegis radar picks up the Airbus. On the screen, it is just a dot. But the crew is already biased. They know Bandar Abbas is a dual-use airport. They expect an F-14 Tomcat. 10:21 a.m. A technician on the Vincennes accidentally tags the flight with a military identification code. Why? Because minutes earlier an Iranian F-14 had been detected on the ground at the airport. The system remembered that code and mistakenly applied it to the civilian flight. This was the first domino to fall. 10:22 a.m. The Vincennes sends warnings on the military air distress frequency. Flight 655 is a civilian plane. It is not even monitoring that frequency. The Vincennes then sends a warning on the international air distress frequency, but they do not use the plane's flight number or transponder code. Captain Rezayan hears a vague warning to an unidentified aircraft, but assumes it's directed at one of the many military jets in the area. 10:23 a.m. The most critical error occurs. Two sailors on the Vincennes report that the plane is descending and accelerating. They tell Captain Rogers it is in an attack profile, but the truth was hidden in the machine. The Aegis system's own recorded data showed the plane was climbing steadily and traveling at a normal civilian speed. The sailors were suffering from scenario fulfillment. Their brains wanted it to be an F-14, so they saw what they expected to see, ignoring the reality on the screen. 10:24 a.m. Captain Rogers is told the target is only 9 miles away. He makes the final decision. He turns the firing keys. Two SM-2MR missiles launched from the deck, leaving trails of white smoke against the blue sky. At 30,000 feet, the passengers of Flight 655 had no warning, no sirens, no evasive maneuvers. The first missile struck the wing. The second struck the fuselage. The Airbus A300 did not just crash, it disintegrated. The force of the explosion was so great that the plane was reduced to thousands of pieces of jagged metal and human remains in less than a second. Below, on the deck of the USS Vincennes, there was a cheer. The crew thought they had just taken down a legendary fighter jet. They thought they were heroes, but within minutes the mood changed. A radio operator on a nearby ship looked at the radar and realized the altitude was all wrong for a jet. Then, the first reports from Iranian search and rescue started coming in. They weren't finding wreckage of a jet fighter. They were finding life jackets. They were finding a woman's handbag. They were finding the body of a 4-year-old girl in a pink dress. The heroic act had turned into a slaughter. 290 people were gone. Not a single soul survived the fall into the waters of the strait. The aftermath of July 3rd is a scandal of international proportions. In the immediate hours, the US government issued a series of false statements. They claimed the plane was outside the civilian corridor. They claimed it was diving at high speed. They claimed it didn't respond to warnings. All of these were lies. The investigation later proved the plane was exactly where it was supposed to be. Despite the loss of 290 innocent lives, the US government never issued a formal apology. Most shockingly, when the crew of the USS Vincennes returned home, they weren't disciplined. They were given combat action ribbons, and Captain Rogers was awarded the Legion of Merit for his outstanding service. To Iran, this wasn't an accident, it was a message. This event became the fuel for decades of anti-American sentiment, shaping the geopolitical landscape we see today. It solidified the power of hardliners and made reconciliation nearly impossible for a generation. We often talk about numbers, but we must talk about the people. On Global Veritas, we believe every life has a name. There were entire families on that flight. Children traveling for summer vacations. A honeymooning couple. For days after the crash, the waters of the Gulf were filled with floating shoes, suitcases, and toys. In 1996, 8 years after the event, the US finally agreed to pay $61 million in compensation to the families. But there was a catch. They refused to admit legal liability. They refused to say the word sorry. They paid the money as a gesture of goodwill, not as an admission of a crime. But money cannot buy back the 66 children who never got to grow up. A warning from the past. The tragedy of Flight 655 is a haunting reminder of what happens when technology and human ego collide in a war zone. It teaches us that in the fog of war, the most advanced systems are only as good as the humans operating them. As long as we allow fear and aggression to take the lead, innocent people will pay the price. Thank you for watching this deep dive. At Global Veritas, we are committed to bringing you the stories and truths that shape our world. If you found this journey insightful, hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the world has learned from this tragedy? I'll see you in the next mystery.